The second physiological process is blood glucose level. And blood glucose level is one that we've gone over a couple of times this year in periphery to other things right around the liver. So let's take a look at it in depth here. So things that you already know is that blood glucose is needed to make ATP via cell respiration. And you should know also that the amount of glucose that you need or amount of ATP that you're making fluctuates by demand. Higher exercise, more ATP needed, more glucose needed. Lower exercise, or you're resting, low glucose needed. Okay, so forth. You get that. All right. There are two hormones that work opposite each other, antagonistic hormones called insulin and glucagon that regulate blood glucose concentrations. And let's show you how they do that with a little diagram here. All right. So here's our seesaw, which can basically be used for almost any hormone regulator process. So when blood glucose level is higher, let's say after you've eaten, the pancreas is going to secrete insulin into the blood. Okay, it's done by a type of cell called a beta cell in the islet cells in the pancreas. We'll get those notes in a second. All right, so insulin does the following. Insulin will do three things. Number one, it's going to take sugar out of the blood and store it in the liver as glycogen, as in the his schnizzle of organs, the liver. It's going to take sugar out of the blood and store it in your muscle cells and as glycogen and to build protein. And it's going to take sugar out of the blood and convert that to fat. And we don't really want that to happen, but it does. So then, of course, gets taken out, and blood glucose levels drop back down to homeostatic levels. And if it drops lower, then what we have is the opposite effect. So lower blood glucose levels, glucagon is released from a kind of cells called the alpha cells of the pancreas, and they cause an increase in blood glucose concentration. What happens from that? Okay, so it may involve the release of glucose by the fat tissue. It's going to involve the breakdown of glycogen in the liver to make glucose, okay, released by the liver, which is then going to take blood glucose levels back up. So you see it going on there. So let's clarify what we just said about alpha, beta, and all that kind of stuff. But this is a good diagram to use because over on the right here, it tells you what insulin does. Over here, what glucagon does. Notice muscle cells already using it. So if we take a look here, it says on this panel, on this flow chart, which you can really get your notes from. All right. The name of the cells in the pancreas that produce insulin and glucagon are called the islet cells, different from enzyme cells.